So in the first video, I showed you a couple edits that you can do to a picture. The other thing I'm going to talk about is cropping. So I'm gonna pause here for this particular video with those little edits, and I'm gonna go down to this crop button, which is right underneath, and that allows me to crop an image. So say I intentionally want to remove something from a photograph. Right now, my aspect ratio is locked, meaning that it is going to crop at a specific ratio. If I do not want that, see this thing that says original, I can make my own. So say that I want a specific, format, I could certainly make it my own. If this is going on to Instagram, maybe I keep it a square and it's a 1x1. And then once I'm happy with it, I would hit return. Now I have a square photograph, but I'm going to go back. I don't want to do that offhand. I can also rotate my photo. I don't hate that, but right now I'm pretty happy with this. There's also a flip button. So if I want to change the axis, I can do that, or again, up or down. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and crop my image. Let's see what it looks like when I keep that original aspect ratio. It's okay. So I'm going to leave it alone. You can see once I cropped, I hit enter, and that's how it reduced the actual size of my image. And now, one last thing I want to show you. You can see again all of these different things that I'm not going to talk about everything today, but is that actual color button. So you can see that there is a tool that says white, balance, as shot, auto, custom. Let's see what auto looks like. Oof. For me, this is going back to the original and I don't love it. As shot, it shows me what it looks like, and I can also hit custom. So once I start to adjust this filter on my own, it automatically is telling me it's a custom white balance. So temperature, if I scroll to the left, it means it gets cooler. To the right, it gets warmer. I'm going to go to the left just a little bit. We're making this a really trippy image here. The tint, again, you can play around. You can see as I go to the left, it gets greener. To the right, it gets some more magenta. I'm going to leave the tint alone for the most part. The vibrance, how vibrant this is. To the right, it's going to get the colors get really bright and saturated. To the left, we get monochrome, almost monochrome. Again, I think I'm going to leave it. I don't want it all the way over here. That's a lot. And saturation, again, meaning how much color pigment is present. So if I scroll all the way to the right, I will get a really saturated image, and to the left, I'm going to get that monochrome image. So I'm going to leave it alone as seen here. So if at any point, those are the main edits I wanted to show you today. If at any point as you start editing, you look and you're like, oh, I don't love what's happening here. Like now I kind of want to take away some of the exposure and make it a little bit darker the more I edit this picture. So now I'm left with an image that looks more like a painting than a photograph to me. So I'm going to pause here. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure I save it. Up at the top, there is a button that says File, Export. You can also click, first of all, you can also click on this. So show original. Look at how different this is. It's a very different photograph. And once I unclick show original again, it'll show me how different it is. Obviously, this is an extreme version of editing. But, again, I think that's really important to see. Now, I could take it to Photoshop if I needed to edit it further. So at the very top of my menu, there's a button that says File, and I can go down and it says Export, or I can click on this little arrow box that says Export. Now it's going to let you choose a small, large JPEG, the original, previous settings. I usually go ahead and export a large JPEG because the higher quality your JPEG is, the more you can expand the image and it becomes more versatile. And then my menu is going to pop up and ask me where I want to save it. So I am going to be very specific about where I would like to save my documents. I'm going to make a new folder for this class and call it Photo 1 Spring. And then I'm going to hit Create. So now I'm going to export that photo. Again, we've talked. This is intense now, but I'm going to stop here. Now I'm ready to do this for the rest of my photographs. So the last thing I want to take a second to mention is that in a perfect world, you spend a little bit of time away from your photograph, and then you come back and you look at it. So the hope is, even if it's 5 minutes, you edit your picture, you save it, and then you look at it again. And so when I have done that, this is fine, but I look at this and I'm like, oh, this is so blue now. I feel like it could be in a Smurf village, and I don't want it to be quite that intense. So I can still make edits. Let's go back to that blue tone curve, and I can bump it down from where I was, right? And so now that is definitely not nearly as saturated. You know, again, I can play around with that. Maybe add a little bit more yellow in, just a tiny bit. So my point is that, you know, yes, you have spent some time and you have edited your picture, but it's not always going to be obvious right off the bat that it's done or ready to submit. So you may have, okay, let's up that exposure just a little bit. Not just like that either. So you may have a point in time where you say, okay, that was too much. I need to go back. I need to fix it. And again, with Lightroom, that's really easy to do. So maybe I land instead on this version. And so now I can export it again. But what I like to do is rename it. So I'm going to hit export, and it will probably have saved my new one. So this is one way that I can continue to play with editing. It always gets asked, how do you know you're done? When you have a picture that you feel is balanced and reflects the vision for that image itself. So I look forward to seeing what you have to turn in.